Hello and welcome back to another episode in my sequence of videos about generating my own electricity. The big piece of news to share in this episode is that I bought a new car, and I've gone for a hybrid, plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. The main reason being that because we generate such an excess of power, particularly in these summer months, that we can put the excess into the large battery that's in the vehicle and effectively get free motoring as a side effect. So we looked around at the different vehicles that were available, considered getting an entirely electric vehicle, something like a Nissan Leaf. The problem with that is that we were going to be replacing our sort of family car, as it were, and the family car needs to be able to take us wherever, if we go camping or if we just go and visit family, we might have to travel 200-300 miles in it, and at the moment electric vehicles just can't cover that sort of distance easily without having to recharge frequently. So we needed something that we could still use for those sort of things, and so we decided to go for a plug-in hybrid vehicle because for most of our journeys to the shops, taking the kids to school, going to work, those sort of things, we'll be able to do all of those just using the electric, and it'll never use the petrol engine. But for the odd occasion when we're going to travel a significant distance, you can use it like a normal petrol engine car. So you've got the convenience of both, and at the moment that works. That's going to work best for us. Now I know that there are some new electric vehicles sort of planned for the next few years. The Tesla Model 3, and I think the Chrysler have got the Bolt, all of which are sort of supposed to be 200 plus miles on a charge. So it might be that in the years to come, those would be good cars for us to look at, potentially as a second car. But at the moment, with the range that these cars have, it wasn't really an option for the sort of the main family car. The other thing as well is because we had to replace our aging diesel family car, which we used to carry all the camping stuff when we went camping and stuff. So we needed a significantly large vehicle to get all the camping gear in and get all of us in it and everything. So again, something small like a Nissan Leaf or those sort of cars just wouldn't really be big enough. So we looked at the plug-in cars that were available, plug-in hybrids, and we settled on going for Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV. We were originally going to go for one of the brand new ones just before the government grant ran out. But when we went to have a look at the new one, we got taken in on a good deal on a sort of a 9-month-old sort of previously owned one that had only done about 900 miles, I think it was, when we got it. So it pretty much as new. But we made a significant saving on the fact that it was secondhand. So it's an almost new car, but new to us, and we've had it for about a month now, and really, really, really pleased with it. Actually, it's really comfortable, nice inside, and it rides well. It's got good pickup, plenty of boot space for all the stuff, and it's good on long distances. We've used it a few times now to sort of do 200-mile plus round trips using the petrol engine, and it's not great miles per gallon when you are using it as petrol. It's probably sort of something along the lines of about 30 miles to the gallon when you're sort of going along on the motorway. But for the most of the time, I think in the month that we've had it, we've filled it up like twice, and pretty much all that petrol's been used on these journeys going to sort of visit family and things, in everyday use for going to and from work and taking the kids to school. We're not using the petrol at all. It's all being done off the battery. We can get about on a full charge it tells us about 26 miles from a full charge. It's only sort of 6 miles each way for me to go to work, so I can get to work and back for a couple of days on a full charge. It's even less than that. Take the kids to school and back. It's about 4 mile round trip. 4 miles each way. Sorry, so 8 mile round trip to take the kids to school. So again, do that. Drop the kids off. Come back. Plug it straight back in. By the time you've got to go and pick them up and stuff, it's all fully charged again anyway. When I go to work, if I use it for work, I can either charge it up through the night before, which is obviously not using our solar power, but on grey days or that sort of thing, there just isn't enough spare power to charge the car anyway. So we can charge it up with what is available during the day, and then finish topping it up in the evening or through the night, so that it's all ready for the next morning. We pay a bit more for our electricity from our supplier so that we get 100% green energy. So even if we do have to resort to using the mains to plug it in, we're still doing it in a carbon neutral way. But the real goal is to try and charge it as much as possible from the spare power from the solar panels. And as the days have been getting longer and the amount of sunshine is as high as it's been, certainly in this last week in May, we get a little bit of charge into it before we even use it in the morning. Take the kids to school, drop them off, come back, plug it back in. It charges up for another few hours before my wife has to use the car for her to then go to work. And then as soon as she finishes work and picks the kids up and brings them home, plug it straight back in again. Easily get 2 or 3 hours worth of charging into it before the sun goes down so low as there's not enough spare power. But by then it's usually fully charged and we're all ready to go again for the next day. So we really are making the most of what power we've got available. And like I say, it means that we haven't had to really use the petrol ever. Just all the trips are short enough that we can do it from the battery. So I don't know what else to say about the car. It's quite clever. It uses electricity until the battery's empty, and then it will switch to using the engine. Um, it can at slower speeds it just uses the engine to generate electricity to feed back in the battery, and you're still effectively running in an electric mode, but with the engine acting as a generator. But if you get above a certain speed, I think it's something like 40 or 50 miles an hour, then the engine then swaps to actually driving the wheels directly, because that's more efficient. And it all happens seamlessly. You can't really tell it's happening. There's like a graphics display that will show you where the power's coming from, and you can see that it's suddenly swapped to the engine, and but you can't really feel it. It all just happens invisibly. And it uses regenerative braking, and all that sort of stuff to capture energy when you're slowing down, and to try and make the battery last as long as possible, or what electricity you've got to last as long as possible. It's got two plug-in ports. It's got like a rapid charge port that you can use at motorway services, where they've got these super high speed chargers that can give you a sort of an 80% charge in 30 minutes. We tried one of those out once. We didn't really need to, but we were travelling, and we thought we'd have a go, and just so we could see what it was like, and it really is quite fast. And by the time you've gone into the toilets and grabbed a cup of coffee or something and come back to the car, you're only really going to wait another 5 or 10 minutes, and then it's you're ready to go again. But really, with a car with a battery the size of this one, the charges are not really that important as such. They're for the people who've got Nissan Leafs and that sort of thing. But the other charge socket is just a sort of a normal charge socket for a standard lead that you get with the car that plugs into a standard plug socket, or you can even have one of these sort of higher capacity charge units put on the outside wall of your house. You may have seen some people with them, and that sort of just charges the battery up a bit quicker. But for me, with the system that I've been implementing to sort of control when we've got spare power and that sort of thing, I need to be able to plug it into standard wall socket, so that I can use the switchable plugs that are only rated up to 13 amps to control when to dump spare power into the car and when there's not enough to turn it off and that sort of thing. So I've got that. I've got that all set up now with the Energini sockets that I think I mentioned in the last episode, and so now I dump energy into the car automatically whenever there's spare. So it's just a matter of habit now that as soon as we get home and you reverse onto the driveway, you just, as you get out of the car, you pop the charge hole open, and you just plug the lead back in, and then lock the car, and then go into the house, and then the system in the house will take care of the rest and just dump power into it when it's available. And like I say, I've got the ability to set up rules, and I've set up some so that if I know I need to charge it up and we haven't had any sun for that particular day, that I've just got a rule that will sort of switch it on at 1 o'clock in the morning, and just charge it up through the night so that it's ready for the next day. And yeah, it all works really well. I think the only thing that would be better is if there was some way to communicate with the car directly to find out what level the battery was at in the car, because at the moment I can't tell any of that information, so I have to just switch on and off the socket depending on spare power that's available. But if I could somehow query the car and find out what the charge level was in the car, then I could make more intelligent decisions about, for example, charging up through the night. If I could sort of see at 1 o'clock in the morning, well, the battery's basically still empty because we haven't had any sun that day, then switch it on and charge through the night. But at the moment, I can't see any way to do that. But yeah, maybe there's a way. I'll look into it. I suppose the other thing about charging it through the night is that you could see maybe a benefit to going onto something like an Economy 7 tariff, particularly in the winter months, because we probably generate enough electricity even in the winter just to cover our usage in the home. So we wouldn't need to have any energy from the grid during the day, and then we could maybe charge the car up overnight using a cheaper Economy 7 tariff, and that might work out quite well. But I need to look into that into more detail to see whether or not it's something we'd want to do. But as with most electricity suppliers, we've signed up to a 1-year deal or whatever for a fixed price thing, so it's not something I can even look at until sort of January, February time next year. So but it's something I'll look into as well. I think particularly if we're maybe going to consider getting another electric vehicle at some point in the next few years, it would probably make sense to have a tariff like that, because I don't think even in the height of summer we maybe struggle to generate enough to charge 2 cars. But I don't know. Some of the weather we've been having, we've been, even with charging the car and running the home, we've been exporting 20-25 kilowatt hours of electricity in the day, and obviously that would probably be like 2/3 of a full charge on something like a Nissan Leaf, and with that much energy in the battery, I think a Nissan Leaf's good for 120 miles or something. I mean, that would last me 2 weeks of going to work and back or something. Yeah, so even if you only got sunny days once every 2 weeks, it'd probably be enough to that I would never have to charge it from grid electric. It's something for me to consider moving forward. I'll put some shots of the car in question and some information about it. I might put some sort of video footage of it on here as well, so you can see what model it is. I think I'll also put some pictures of my control screen that I've written now for showing me how much energy has been put into the car and how much has been put into the immersion heater and all that sort of thing, so I can segregate off different amounts of energy. One of the things I needed to do in order to calculate how quickly the system is paying for itself is to be able to sort of allocate the spare energy that's been dumped into things like the car and that so that I could work out how much effectively I've saved. And for the car, I'm just working out the equivalent cost if I'd had to buy the electricity to charge the car up from the grid. That's how much I allocate the energy that I've put in from the solar panels, because that's slightly more than I get paid for it if I export it. So, but in terms of how much of a difference the electric makes compared to the equivalent amount of petrol, I don't allocate that towards my payback for my solar powered stuff. That's more allocated towards the car itself. because obviously if we'd have just bought the car and we didn't have the solar panels, it would have still been a cost benefit of that type of car, because the electricity is a lot cheaper per mile than petrol is. So the only other thing I wanted to talk about in terms of the car would be the charging points. We don't have a rapid charger fitted. You can get them fitted. They cost about £200 or £300, I think it is, to have one fitted, and apparently that's subsidised. But at the moment, it's not really worth us having one, because, like I say, I can't switch it from my system automatically. There would be days when we're really generating in excess and we're actually here at the house, when it would be useful to be able to sort of plug it in and manually switch it on to just get the battery charged a lot quicker than I could do it with the automatic system. But at the moment, the cost of having it fitted would never really wouldn't make sense to do it. So we'll do without that. And as far as the charging points that are available on out there in the world, there are a number of charge providers. Most of them want a sort of a monthly fee. You have to sort of join and pay a fixed amount every month, regardless of whether you actually use any electric. And then when you do plug in, you still have to pay for some electric. There are pay-as-you-go ones, but the cost, you have to pay for the cost of the electric, and then there's like a minimum charge. And I've looked at it, just doesn't make sense really, the amount of money that it would cost. It's just not worth it. I mean, if you've got a pure electric car and you've got to charge it, you haven't got any alternative, then those sort of things I think make sense. But for us, and with such a small battery, it's mostly about being able to do the short trips to and from home that mean that you never have to use petrol. And so I haven't bothered to join any of those networks of charging stations, with the exception of an Electrcity one, which I found, which is currently free. They don't have charge points sort of all over the place, but they do have them at every motorway service station, and they're free to use. You have to sign up and get a charge card, but at the moment there's no cost. And that's the one we used when we wanted to try out the rapid charger one time at the Clackett Lane services on the M25. Yeah, like I say, it's free at the moment. If they ever change that, we would probably stop using it. And in all honesty, I think we would almost never use it anyway. It'll just be on odd occasions. I know they've got a few installed charge points installed at IKEAs and maybe some other things. So on the off chance that we happen to go to an IKEA or something like that, we would probably plug it in and charge it up. You might as well. But for sort of motorway trips and things like that, I can't honestly see us using it, because you could sit there for 20 minutes and get an 80% charge, but it's only going to get you 15 miles and then you'll be back on the petrol again. So it's not really worth it. We might as well just carry on using the petrol. So but I think if we had a pure electric car, it would definitely be worth it. And like I say, because it's free, why not? So they also say that the electricity that they send to those things is all 100% green, generated from hydro and solar and the like. So again, it's all green energy. So no harm in using it. In fact, benefit to using it, isn't there? So I think that's probably about all I've got to say for this episode. I'll have some more information in the next episode about a new battery, hopefully. I'm planning to get a second battery for the house to try and absorb a lot more of the spare energy we're generating, because at the moment we've only got the one battery, and it means that we do capture some and we can make it through for a few hours after the sun's gone down, but another battery, I think we could probably make it through the night, or not through the night, but into the night, about just after midnight or something maybe, and then obviously we'll be using even less energy from the grid then, so I'd like to do that, but stay tuned and I'll sort of update on that hopefully on the next video. But if anybody has got any questions about the car, or about anything else to do with my charging system and stuff, then leave a comment or whatever, and I'll do my best to get back to you. But in the meantime, see you next time.